Hey, everybody. I hope you all can hear me. I'm seeing some questionable comments here. People are saying Chopin is just so so. It's great. Very good. Well, happy Friday, everybody. I'm glad you're all here. I see we got eight or nine people watching, and hope you're having a great week so far. And yeah, I was trying to figure out which pieces of Chopin to work on, and as I started digging through the first Ballade, there's so much to talk about that I think I'll be, mainly focusing on that. If we have time, we might look at one of the nocturnes, but I wanted to focus mainly on this piece. I almost said raise your hand if you know this piece, the first Ballade. I guess you can virtually raise your hand. I was doing some digging about it, and I remember my old teacher Brian Gans used to say that this was Chopin's favorite work, supposedly. And I, being the usual skeptical person I am, I said I need to look that up. Is that true? So I did some digging, and I found a quote by Schumann from 1836. Um, he said, "I have a new ballade by Chopin," referring to this ballade, and it seems to me to be the work closest to his genius, though not his most brilliant. It's kind of a weird thing to say. I even told him that it is my favorite of all of his works. After a long reflective pause, he told me empathetically, I am glad, because I too like it the best. It is my dearest work. So apparently Schumann had a conversation with Chopin, and Chopin was saying how it was his dearest work. So a lot going on in the piece. It was written. He had sketches of it in 1831. At that point, he had left Poland. I think he was in Vienna at the time, and he had these sketches in play, and he kind of worked on it for a few years. I think he finally finished it in 1835. So we're talking about he was 25 years old. So yeah, 25 to write a piece like this, I think, is quite something. So um, and I was doing some other digging about it, and one particular writer was saying that they think this piece is almost autobiographical because well, let's see, we're checking the sound here. Someone's checking the sound for me. Are we all good? Good sound, very good. Um, and so I think we'll talk about how there is really a narrative to the piece, and of course, a ballade, right, is a piece of music or is something has a story to it, and you can really hear these elements in the piece that make it sound like his journey, right? He had left Poland at this young age of 21, never to return home there. And you always see that as part of the different features of Chopin's music is that he always seems to be going back there, whether it's through the polonaises, right? This Polish dance, whether it's through the nocturnes, whether it's through the mazurkas, another Polish dance. So even in just looking at the genres of Chopin, we see that. But the Ballade at this time, we know he was reading poetry by Adam Mickiewicz, a very famous Polish poet, although we're not sure if it had a direct influence on Chopin at the time. So he did dedicate this piece, for what it's worth, to the Baron Nathaniel von Stockhausen, who was who's an ambassador to France. So that's worth knowing. So let's just jump right in here. The very beginning is rather unusual. The piece is in G minor. We don't begin in G minor. This is how we begin. This is the first two lines of the piece. And by the way, if you haven't checked out, we do have the score there. It's on the Patreon and it's on the description in the link, YouTube link, if you want to follow along, if you're feeling ambitious. So feel free to do that. First two lines. And that begins our first theme with that one. Now you'll notice it's kind of a strange. He's got parallel lines going on here. It's just single notes in octaves, and he starts way down on the piano. He writes pesante, which means kind of heavy. So there's a heaviness to it. Largo is the marking there, which means kind of actually literally means large or broad. And it just kind of moves with this centrifugal force upward to the high C. And so it sounds kind of bold at first, like you're starting a speech, right? You feel pretty confident, and then he wavers within just three measures, right? It's kind of incredible. Within three measures, that's very bold, but then it's like, now how does he communicate that kind of something's not quite right? The half steps, right? Half steps give us that sensibility. And then he kind of further plays with those half steps. And notice he's revolving around one note, F sharp. Now Chopin loves doing this kind of thing. Think about the fourth ballade he does. So he really knows how to utilize those. So he's playing around with the reaching up to the A. And what's especially interesting, if you're looking at the score, he's very specific with the rhythmical changes. You've got eighth notes and triplet eighth notes, dotted eighth notes, 16th note, triplet eighth notes. So he's almost writing out the cadenza-like feeling to the piece. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now, oftentimes people won't take enough pause there. So if you're working on this piece, it's a whole 3 beats there that silence. At the very beginning, kind of unusual. And then finally we get our first chord. Just striking C minor chord. Now notice it's not in first inversion. What do I mean by that? If it's here, root position chord, it always feels more grounded because the C is on the bottom. If it's in an inversion, it always makes us feel somewhat more uncertain. It's not quite grounded, thus the name root position. Now that is extremely dissonant. Now if I move those all into the same octave, pretty dissonant chord, right? Oh, we got 14 people watching. If you're just joining us, happy Friday. We are working on a little Chopin today. So I love this dissonance. And then he only hangs on to one note. And then he pulls us into his world in a way with this. And that's where we finally end up in G minor. So 2 lines. It's probably one of the most difficult lines, the first 2 lines to perform. I can't tell you how many countless hours I spent trying to get that just the right way. There's so many different ways to play it. So here we have our first theme. That was the introduction we just went through. Here's our first theme. Stop at that point. So what are some I like when people are talking in the chat. I always what do you think of when you hear this theme? I'm curious about what your thoughts on that. It definitely strikes me as melancholy. We have this bold introduction, and then it's a little hesitant, and then this is Chopin bringing us, I think, into his world, and it's very much a narrative. That's a wonderful way to describe. He pulls us into his world. Exactly. Chopin's so great at doing that in a very short period of time. Thinking about some of his other pieces, even, he has a way of making us empathize with him right away. It's like he wants to draw us into that, and in a weird way, it's sad, but it's also there's a way of someone else understands me kind of thing. So what is he doing with the rhythm? Let's think about that first. It's basically in groups of 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, and we also have kind of this underlying waltz pattern, yum bum bum yum bum bum, kind of like pum pum pum, kind of like a heartbeat. Bum, 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 bum. And I think that's what gives it. It's kind of it's almost helps us breathe a little more, and especially if you're playing it, you want to make sure you breathe with it. Love how he puts in the rests. Gives us time to kind of step back and feel the motion of the music, where it's going. Let's just look at the melody, because I think he really structures it very beautifully. High, and then just a step down. He repeats it. Goes down, and then goes up. A little more hopeful. And listen to what he does here. Full octave. And the sunshine comes out briefly. Again, he's playing with those half steps. coming back down. Now, when we paint the harmony in with it, I'm not going to play with the rhythm, just play the harmony with it. Again, kind of more restful. Sunshine, more hopeful. And then kind of turns back. In fact, I have a little frowny face from Brian Gans used to draw a lot of stuff in my score, if you want to see. It's pretty marked up. So it turns back. You know, thought you were getting somewhere, but then repeats that main section. So we somewhat know what to expect. Now here's where it changes. Okay, and then after that, give me 1 second here. I feel like I get allergic to this light for some reason. That sounds strange. And so you have, he's going to change it here. So now the left hand is growing in its confidence. That thing that was in the kind of background texture is now coming up. And now you'll notice that it's going to have a little twirl of its own. So it managed to kind of override the texture a little bit and say, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. So the things that were in the background are suddenly in the forefront. And of course, that trill is the sense of it just can't help but feel excited about it. He truly takes the listener through a sequence of emotions very quickly. Yeah, within one page, we've been through the mill in a sense already. So he gets to a sense of nobility coming up again. I think that resonates with what we had in the first part of the piece. So let's see what he does. So what is he doing here? He's building us up now. We were kind of in despair, not feeling all that great. And now he's broadening the texture, adding octaves in the left hand. With the phrasing we have, let's see. He's leading us upward. And it's interesting, he almost seems to comment on the phrases he's already given. Like if you're telling a story and then you say, you're commenting on the previous phrase. And then when he gets his ritenuto, which means, you know, suddenly kind of put on the brakes here. And this is before we get into A major. And now this is probably the most broad texture that we've had in the left hand until this point. So he's broadening out that left hand part. And then, of course, you have this wonderful, Chopin loves these things, these strings of notes that just seem to, there's a German term, Fortspinnung, which means kind of to spin out. And you can really hear this kind of Fortspinnung element to this. It just can't contain the sense of excitement. And that's something I need to practice. And of course, the left hand supporting that. And I think that really has something to do with those T-dum. He's kind of playing with that heartbeat idea. At least that's one way to look at it. And then again, that heartbeat idea. I'm just playing the left hand here. And it's kind of painting this, but it's going to get more intense as we go through. Now, what's the right hand doing? So it's wrapping around itself. So it's very kind of intimate, but at the same sense, it's outgoing. It's like he wants to express what's going on with it. And the combination is beautiful. And delicious chords, right? He's really giving us some wonderful harmony. Now he's emboldening it. Now he writes forte instead of piano. And now we got octaves in the left hand instead of just single notes. And that's a spot you definitely want to practice your arpeggios with. Excuse me. I love how he just seems to go from the most tender-hearted thing to it's just out of control. It seems to scurry away. It seems to run away. Is he running away from his problems? Maybe. I don't know. So what is he doing here? We have these wild arpeggios. They're arpeggios, but they're painted with some different harmonies, right? So it's a mixture with the arpeggios and with the steps, but it's always running. It's always running from something. And then your left hand is almost in control of these kind of melodic materials in a way. And feel free to comment with questions or anything. I love reading the comments. That's always a fun thing to do. I'm going to play this in slow motion here. So notice that the left hand, a lot of emphasis on steps, right? And again, it's kind of the half steps. So that's creating tension in addition to all this. And he writes sempre più mosso. Isn't that lucky for us? Always more motion. So he wants to keep it moving. He keeps scurrying along. And so he repeats this gesture. Brings it down lower, which gives it more intensity. Okay, which is very good. Excuse me. And we're getting lower and lower in the keys. Until we land on the lowest G on the piano. Okay, and he's repeating this. So that's going back and forth in the right hand. And also what he's doing with the rhythm is he's syncopating it. Is it almost frenzied? I think it is almost frenzied. It is really, I think the offbeat has something to do with it, plus sempre più mosso. So if you're thinking in an autobiographical way, is this Chopin just thinking about all the craziness, right? This is war-torn Poland that he's coming out of. So is he thinking about, I wish I could be there to help. I wish I could be able to save my family from this, but he can't. So is this maybe a sense of it's out of his control? Okay. And then we have these large the swaths of arpeggios here. And again, we're playing with half steps. Half steps at the same time. The right hand with these really emboldened arpeggios. F sharp is now going to F. And then we end up in F major, which is really interesting. And the transition to that is really remarkable. So you recognize this thing, this bum, 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 bum. He uses that to transform us to the B flat major by using this bum, bum, bum. It's almost like there's horns in the distance. Bum, bum, bum. And he writes ritenuto slowing down, bum, 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 and getting slower and softer until he uses that to draw us into a different world. And I think this particular world now, he's drawing us into the world of memory in a way. Because this is after all this frenzy and everything, I think he's overcome with whatever's happening. And that's, we can kind of relate to that. It's just like there's too much going on, too much to look at. It seems like it's going crazy town. And then you kind of step back, make that something distant, and then bring in something else that's like a memory. That's probably one of the most beautiful moments, right, in Chopin's piano literature. The left hand is extremely free, and in a way, the right hand is just kind of nestling in with these arpeggiated. So the left hand has its own beautiful counterpoint going around, while the right hand has this melody. And if you want to reduce the melody down, which is kind of fun to do, just kind of give it its skeletal form, here's what you'd have. So it has a nice outline to it already, but he paints it in with also in addition to all these steps, stepwise motion, he has this wonderful sense of a freedom to it with the rhythm. And that's one thing I love about Chopin, is that he's able to write in the freedom in a way. Now he writes menomosso, which is less motion, and sotto voce, which means under the voice, so very, very softly. So let's look at now after the first, after he repeats it, it has the theme once, he repeats it, and let's see what he does. Same so far. Now we have a change in the left hand. Now what happens here? He's doing what something is called the tonic pedal in the bass, and what that does is that it just like it's like taking a warm bath. That E flat is just, we're bathing in that harmony because he doesn't let that go away. Even when he changes it to a 5/7, he keeps the E flat in the bass. So this is again thinking about if you got this wonderful memory, maybe this is Chopin looking at memories from when he was growing up in his native Poland. He's immersing himself in that memory and not being distracted by everything else going on. And I love how the right hand, it's just kind of commenting to itself. And then when he repeats it, I love that it takes that memory and it kind of sends it back out into the universe in a way. Pure bliss. First time we have a key change in a while. G flat, E flat, and then D minor. this. Now we're going back to the beginning in a way. Pure bliss. Yes, that's true, Jake C. Thank you for that comment. So he goes, notice what he does with the transitions too. Chopin's great with the transitions. He almost makes us, the transition is almost naked in a way, because think about the transition at the beginning. One note, and then, right, that's one transition. And then we have the transition here. And then we have this transition here. Right? Single lines, right? And I think it's a really powerful thing that he's doing there, because it kind of makes us focus on just that one thing that's going on, and it forces us to kind of zoom in a way, and makes us more vulnerable to what comes next. That's kind of what I think about that. And notice that he's going back to, but this time we have a pedal tone. This is going to be our dominant pedal tone in this case. Heartbeat still going bum, bum. Going upward. Now we're starting with some more intense harmony there. A little more dissonant. Well, we're not going to go there quite yet. It's a great moment there. So notice in this part too, instead of he's actually joining an octave together with that. So you now have two voices going, which gives us the sense that maybe there's more than one person involved in a way. Or he's really taking you along on the journey, and you're with him in that journey. And then what is he doing here with these kind of crazy? He's repeating the same thing over again. Ta ta dum, ta ta dum. He's being very persistent. You'll notice the word of the day. I started doing this with my students. Actually, it's the word of the week. Word of the week is grit. Grit. Yeah. And so this part of the piece seems to have an immense sense of grit to it. Chopin's showing us his resolve, against all odds. And so he's insisting on this G sharp together with the heartbeat, except the heartbeat's more pom pom. It's a heavy heartbeat. Finally, to A. Now you recognize where that comes from, right? That comes from that pure bliss to now it's all outright ecstasy. I think these lovely chords that are proceeding up the piano. So he's really covering the entire breadth in a way of the keyboard. It's full orchestra sound here we've got, yeah. So that's a whole lot happening there. So we have this ecstatic feeling. Now he's doing yet another build-up, okay? Now watch what happens. He's going to kind of morph from something that's kind of fearful into pure fun in a way. So we have this build-up here. He's using a pretty, basic thing to do. Use scales going up to build things. He's keeping the bass on E down there. Okay, he's going to move towards a different key though. Now he's going to move down. that sound like? I think that's the frenzy is kind of coming back. It's getting more fearful. What way do I turn? You know, we came from this beautiful ecstatic feeling, build up for TCCissimo with this thing here. And notice what he's doing. Again, those half steps. He's really beating that left hand with these big leaps. Okay. And he's repeating that over and over again. So that, again, that's kind of obsessive, keeps focusing on that. It's just going. Now, what does it transform into? I haven't practiced this part quite as much, so bear with me here. So it's kind of almost like you think something's going to happen. It's very frenzied, and then it turns out to be like a carnival or something. It's really pure fun at this point. And you know, the thing that was once sotto voce, that comes from, remember this part? Oh yeah. He's using that, transforming it. Yes. Comic relief section, but it's not a picnic to play. Yes, exactly. You're right. Yeah, you're right, Corey. Yeah, it's no picnic. Yeah. I remember practicing this very slowly to learn it. But I love the left hand too. I think a lot of, maybe it's easy to pay attention to this. All that fun. But the left hand's also got a really essential part to play. And that kind of, again, these steps, they're not all half steps. You got a whole step, half step. So that kind of back and forth, there's a dialogue there that's very playful and fun. So maybe Chopin's recollecting more fun, festive parts of his childhood. Let's see if it stays for long. F sharp minor territory very briefly. That seems to come out of nowhere. Doesn't last for long. Now we're in E flat major, and he's going to go to town with some more scales here. Okay, so what do we have going on there? That's basically just 5, 1. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Leggero means lightly. And again, Chopin is so good at using pauses effectively. Let me make sure the comment section is still working here. Yes, thank you for the comments. So we have a pause here, which is really, really important. Right before that is that crazy scale coming down, right? And then, Chopin's really good at figuring out when to bring back themes and when to, excuse me, 1 second. Get my water here. This piece is a workout. It's my new thing here. It says, where words fail, music speaks. Fun, yeah? Let's see. He's taking this theme. He already painted that with this. Now he's painting it with this. And the left hand now is going through these he's really filling up the texture, okay? Let's see what does he change it. So he's adding more layers to it. And you have a nice little sequence going down there. Okay, and he's going to play that through just like how he had before, and then he's going to go back to the E flat major. Excuse me. And we'll just start from the fortissimo. Let's see. Remember that E flat major section that we had before? Right now it's and before we had pause, but now he's filling in this kind of ocean, this textural ocean in a way with these swirls. That's kind of this very rejoicing kind of feeling. Instead of just one octave, he's going up 2 octaves with that there. So what's happening here? What do we have? So we had the E flat major, which was rejoicing. We thought we were out of the woods. Not so fast, right? So now he's going to that G minor again. He just can't seem to get away from that. And notice that he repeats that gesture. And again, he's dropping everything else out except one thing. Okay. One line, the heartbeat's going to come back. So we'll take a look at that in a second. How is this different than the first time that we have da 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 dum? He resolves it to G minor, but this time he keeps that D in the bass, which gives it that foreboding feeling. And think about it, this section keeps coming back too, which is interesting, right? He keeps coming back to this. Something's not right. So even with these beautiful memories, even with the rejoicing, these ecstatic moments in the piece, he's still coming back. And maybe that's him. He's trying to escape from this thinking about his family and his homeland, war-torn Poland. Can't help but think that might be in the back of his mind. So we have these kind of, again, that persistent gesture there. Changes. And then the coda, which is is everybody's favorite coda, which by that time, if you're not exhausted, he says, oh, let's just make it presto con fuoco, which means very fast. Con fuoco means with fire. And of course, it's supposed to be moving right along. We've got 2 pages of that stuff. But I love this moment here. It just really sweeps upward with this. So he's using the same gesture he was using with this. But of course, we're not in a minor key. And we have these lovely intervals of parallel sixths in the right hand. And intervals of a sixth are very, they're always extremely expressive. I think about the Brahms D minor piano concerto, you know. It starts with intervals of a sixth, very espressivo. He writes here, il più forte possibile, so as forte as possible, as loudly as possible with this stuff. So I think it's loud, but it's espressivo. Here's your coda. I want to save something for the performance, so that way I'm not totally worn out. So what is he doing here? It's really and it seems like it's out of control. How does he communicate that? First of all, you have these kind of these gestural things that are in the offbeat. You can't really tell what meter you're in a sense, because it keeps it just seems to keep punching at you or something. It's jagged, it's rugged, it's got grit, you know. And the chords, and notice what he's doing. He's not going. He's adding some of those off, the things that are outside of that chord. So if we're in G minor, that would be a lot easier to play too. But he's using the leading tone in order to help us. In order to help us feel more like it's dissonant, it's off, something's off there. And then when he has this stuff, he's going crazy here. The struggle, you know, is on the offbeats, right? Again, he wants to give this sense of he's really going at it here. Jumping ahead, he does some more scrambling along here. And then finally we end up in really G minor without any of that dissonance. Until here. Okay, so again, half steps are kind of driving it home. Okay, you're gonna love this chromatic scale. Remember, chromatic scale means half steps. So I can't help but think this part here that interrupts the scale. It sounds like happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday gone wrong. I'm sorry, you're probably not going to be able to unhear that every time you hear the piece now, but that's what it sounds like to me. It's dissonant, diminished. And then do you remember the chord at the beginning? Let's see. I think it has some relation to this chord here. Okay. And then just a whole scale going up. You think it's the end. It has that kind of funeral march to it. But then we get one more of this. And that kind of sounds like it comes from... Right? So he just kind of tears that away. And then instead of pure octaves, he's doing a tenth. Is that the end? Maybe. No, one more time, he's got this thing. And then this is I think, a really terrifying moment here. It's a tritone, but it's on the opposite sides of the piano. So we have this going on. And then they're going in contrary motion here, and then they go in parallel motion down, tearing its way down the keyboard. And if this wasn't terrifying enough, he makes them da-dum, da-dum, ba-dum. So that way, coming down, it has even more of a sense of lightning strike or something. And then parallel. And finally, there we have the end of the piece. So you tell me, does Chopin kind of win in the end? Excuse me, my nose keeps running today. Does Chopin win in the end, or what happens throughout the journey of this piece? Uh, the ending has so many different interpretations by various performers. Yes, it does, Jake C. Excuse me. Yeah, I would say, go through and listen. There's a lot of different versions of it. I try to follow as much as possible what Chopin has to say. He writes ritenutos, accelerandos, a lot of markings he gives, and again, he kind of writes out a lot of the rhythmical gestures, so that way you don't have to do too much with it. Steve Bedore loved looking at the score. Oh, good. I'm glad you're looking at the score, Steve. Yay! Very good. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to explain um, without the score, but I'm glad some of you were able to follow along. All right, I'm going to try to play through this here. I don't have the whole thing memorized, and I just kind of brought this back in the fingers, so we'll see how this goes. This is Chopin's Ballade number 1 in G minor. Whew. That is a workout. As you can see, that coda needs a little bit of practicing. Ah, a little water too. Steve says it doesn't seem like anybody's winning yet. Oh yeah, it doesn't seem like anybody's winning at the end there, does it? Ah, thank you, thank you. Whew, that's a tough one. That's one I got to work my way up to in terms of stamina, right? And I'm looking forward to being back in the concert hall with that piece. But so that's a little Chopin for your Friday. Um, it's really a great piece. I think you can maybe kind of see why it does seem like a narrative in a way of his life because it starts off, with this nobleness, and then it kind of it's almost like him leaving his homeland, Poland, and uh, and then always kind of striving to go back there, thinking about memories of that place. So it really is. It's a wonderful piece, and I got a better performance of it on YouTube. That's from actually my master's degree recital at Peabody back in 2015. So you can check that out. Thank you for the comments. I really appreciate that. Um, you can check that out on one of my other videos on YouTube. It's also on Rumble. I'm really excited about the other platform on now, Rumble. I'm still waiting to get up to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And you have to have a certain amount of watch hours there. But on Rumble, I'm already making a little bit of money there, so that's kind of cool. So check that out too. It's very similar to YouTube. But thank you for joining me this evening. Dolores, hey Dolores, thank you for stirring tough but beautiful piece. It is a tough piece. This piece has got grit, doesn't it? Yes. It's stirring. It's beautiful. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. This I need to work on the coda though. This stuff is really tough. It just jumps around so much. Thank you, Constance, very much. Very good. Well, we got about 13, 14, 15 people or something like that. So thank you for, spending time on your Friday evening with me to discover a little Chopin. You got any suggestions for next month? I guess maybe since it's Valentine's Day, maybe we'll do romantic music. Maybe we'll do a little Schumann. Something like that. I'll take a look at the romantic music maybe. Jake C, love the word of the week describing the piece you chose. Right? That's what I was thinking. Yeah, and only one of my students noticed that board. I was so happy about that. My parents gave that to me for Christmas. That is really cool. And only my one student said, and he wasn't here. He was actually a virtual student. He said, "Do you know what the word of the week is, Miss Jennifer?" And I said, "Do you know what the word of the week is?" He saw it. And I was very happy. I've got great students. They're fantastic. Very good. Well, again, I do want to thank all of you for your support. I've been doing the Patreon thing since May, and I've really loved doing these each month. And if there's something you want me to be doing that you feel like, I really want you to do this or that, or I want more of this or more of that, I really want to hear from you because this is a great community we got going on here. So I'm really thankful for all of you. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. I hope that you're able to stay sane during the craziness. I've had to just shut off stuff and just focus on Chopin this week. That's been very helpful to me. And you got to think, there's Chopin, leaving home and everything, and still, he made the best of it. He created this amazing piece of music. He wasn't able to like call home like, "Hey mom, how's it going in Poland?" Or FaceTime. He didn't have any of that. So we are still pretty fortunate, I think, and it's easy to lose sight of that. I know I lose sight of that sometimes, but the beauty of music is always there for us, and it's a joy to share it all with you. So, wishing you all a wonderful week. Wow, right on the dot, 6:30, 7:30. That's pretty good. We'll try to keep it. I try to keep it, within an hour here. So I will look forward to seeing you all next month. In the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your January, and I feel like I'm forgetting something. I don't know. I can't remember what I'm forgetting. So with that, have a great rest of your month, and make sure you comment and like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time. All right, we're going to end the stream in 3, 2, and 1.